Fellow tennis nerds, I hope you are well. Today I am joined by Rubin Statham, who spent more than a decade competing around the world representing New Zealand in the Davis Cup, battling it out on the Challenger Tour, and much more. But he's not only a tennis player or a former tennis player, he's an entrepreneur as well. And many of you might know the Pro Stringer, which is one of his inventions and startup, and it's been doing really well. And you've probably seen it been talked about like guys like Yannick Sinner in the past and so on. So we're going to talk about his entrepreneurship and his tennis career and many other things. But we always start. How are you today, Ruben?
Very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, so long tennis career. How has life been afterwards? How has it been to kind of, we started talking before we started the podcast about the transitioning from real life or life outside the tennis circuit.
Well, what is real life? Is real life the tennis circuit or afterwards? That's the question. But it has been an interesting transition since I retired in December last year. But relatively easy. I have obviously Pro Stringer to run, and so I've kept myself busy, and I've been able to kind of fill that void of playing tennis with other projects, and so it's been a relatively easier transition than I thought, or maybe what most players, from what they tell me, have been through, where they've kind of stopped after a long career and gone, okay, what's next for life? What do you do? Do you coach Martha for 12 hours a day on the court, or what's next? So I think it was a relatively easy transition for me.
Do you, I mean, you do some coaching, of course, and you've been involved in that. Is that something you want to dedicate yourselves to, or you don't really have time with the Pro Stringer and other businesses you do?
No, no coaching at the moment. It's it's just setting priorities. If I coach, then no one gets stringing machines. So yeah, I've got to make sure the world gets their string machines to travel with, and yeah, not much time for coaching. I did a little bit the last couple of years as I was winding down my career. I worked a bit with Marcus Giron and Max Purcell, and did a series of events with both of them and pre-season training and that type of stuff. But just with the launch of our new machine CybeX last month, it's unfortunately tennis has had to take the back seat.
Yeah, that's understandable, man. And you talk about CybeX, but before we get into the new machine, because you have a few iterations of the Pro Stringer already, how did it come about? Like, where did you get that light bulb moment of like, okay, I need a portable stringing machine? Because I guess it came from your needs primarily.
Yeah, it was just with a pain point, really. Me and my twin brother, we were playing on tour, and our first 2 years, we spent about 17K USD per year between us. We're breaking 1-2 strings, 1-2 rackets per day, playing in Europe on clay, and just breaking a lot of strings. It's a big expense for a single expense, especially when you're starting out on tour and you're not making that much money. And so that went on for a couple of years, and then I said, look, we're going to do something. So we traveled with a manual drop weight machine, which is about 30 kgs, and it's a portable machine. But of course, tricky to travel with all of your other equipment. You've got a lot of equipment to play tennis, to travel week to week, 35 weeks a year on tour. So we had to split it into each other's bags and pay overweight baggage, and nightmare, and it not functionally great to use. So I spent quite a bit of time in between matches in my hotel room coming up with kind of a solution of some design that I thought would work. Not being from an engineering background, just figuring it out. And then I was fortunate enough to well, I went to Korea and I played a tournament there, and the first week was in Seoul, and me and my brother was there, and this was entry level professional tennis, not many people watching, and I had a Korean fan or guy clapping for me that I noticed, and then I kept winning a few matches, semi-finals. He's still there. And then we played another event in Busan, which is the bottom of Korea. It's about 3 hours away. Again, same person was there, and so he was near the players' lounge, and it got to the point I saw him, and I thought, okay, I've either got an amazing fan here and a great guy, or I need to call the police because he's stalking me. So I was like, okay, we'll go with the first option to start. So I got a couple of coffees and had a chat with him. And my brother was in the players' lounge stringing on this drop weight machine. And I explained the situation, why we had this machine, the expenses, da da da. It turns out he's an electronic engineer and obviously a tennis nut. So good combination, kind of what I was looking for at the time. And we spent a lot of time together, and to make the first prototype together, but there was really no intention to make a business. It was just to help reduce those expenses and to have some performance benefit of, because you're traveling, and if you do hand the rackets in, you have guys using different machines. They use different techniques to string. Every week you're getting a different result in your racket. Um, and then it began kind of from there. But at the time, it was just to get something to use on tour, and then from there, my friends on tour, they were all, okay, can you please help me out? And I'd make one by one to help them out, and then their friends wanted, and then it was very much organic the way it happened, um, and then it got to a point where I was, okay, let's go ahead, and if we're going to do this, let's go all in and create the best machine possible for tennis and for pro players especially.
Yeah, I think one thing that most people outside tennis or maybe like casual viewers they don't realize is like how much money is spent for players on stringing, right? Like the 6 to 8 rackets going to the stringer, sometimes more, sometimes less, but and the players they pay for it themselves. You know, that's a cost they have to do. And when you're playing top 10 tennis in the world, yeah, it's not a problem with money. But if you're playing futures or challengers, this money adds up, right? So I think that was
Yeah.
pretty strong um, selling point for a machine of like good portability. How far like was the kind of first prototypes to like the CybeX machine that you launched just like shortly not long ago, right? It must be a huge leap.
Yeah, massive. So it's been 14 years now since we launched Platinum 1, and we did Platinum 2, Platinum 3 about a year and a half ago, and a few weeks ago CybeX. So a huge amount of development. The first version was very much, it put the strings in the rackets. I mean, the first prototype, I would tension the machine and kind of like, "Oof, is it going to explode?" type of thing. Um, and yeah, so I started relatively small when I made the decision to go for it. Kind of the long-term vision was to create a machine that's small and portable. The first version was 2 kgs, 4.4 pounds, and to CybeX that we just launched 1.3 kg, so very small comparing, a portable drop weight machine at 30 kgs, and then you have the Grand Slam machines at about 60 kgs. And but the idea long term was to create a machine that was a lot smaller to travel with, but also be able to perform as well as the Grand Slam stringers and have the functionality. and that's finally what we've done with CybeX. But CybeX we were working on that for 7 years of R&D while selling platinum. So yeah, it's come a long way, a lot of work, and it's improved a lot over the course of the years. I didn't take on any investors or shareholders. I just did it myself. I think our first batch was 5 machines. After I helped my friends out one by one, said, okay, we'll make 5 machines, and of course it's a lot more expensive to do quantities of 5, and then use the profits to do 10 and then 20, and but with that, I did like that where every batch I could improve. So I would get the other pro players and say, hey guys, anything that you would like implemented for the machine to improve it. And you're getting this feedback from guys that are stringing multiple rackets every day, and they're professionals, So it's great feedback. And I use that to do small batches to improve it to the point where, today we're doing 1,000 pieces at a time. But it's also got to do with your amount of sales to feel comfortable. It's a balance between sales and how much you feel you can improve it. So yeah, with the third version of Platinum, it's pretty much maxed out at the capabilities within that machine. And then CybeX is another huge step up to it.
So what are some like the features in CybeX that is like mind blowing compared to the regular Platinum 3.0?
So CybeX was kind of the final piece of the puzzle. That was the long-term vision, and it's pretty special to actually bring that bring that into the world and execute it, which is a huge step. Just rather than thinking of it or not being able to execute it. So I'm happy with that, and it's taken a long time, but it has more functionality than any string machine ever made. So currently we have 17 functions on there. Yeah. So it's just 1.3 kgs. It's a touch screen. It's 17 functions. Another screen up here too. And first machine ever that's upgradable. So you can upgrade it on your smartphone, upgrade the new software. And for example, stringing is a very personal thing. People say to me like, oh, how should I string? Or some other stringers say, oh, you've got to, this is the way to string. But it is a very personal thing. And that because if you look at pro players, everyone's using different rackets, they're different strings, different combinations of strings, different tensions. Everyone's different. So it's very personal. And the idea behind CybeX was provide every different option, put it all in there. The player finds out what personally works for them. You save your settings, turn it back on. You've got all your settings logged in. Anywhere you go in the world, just pull it out of your bag and away you go. So that's the concept behind it, and just providing as many options as possible. So yeah, with the upgradability, it's really limitless what it can do. For example, some pro players have told me, okay, they like to tension their string twice. So they'll tension, retract, tension again, and they feel like that holds tension better when they're playing matches. For longer, it will hold the right tension. Fine. I got that feedback quite a bit. So I said to my team, okay, let's do dual tensioning. Put it in there. Let's do dual, set it between 1 and 5 times, and it will automatically tension to that number of times. Let's call it dual tensioning. Put it in there. So upgrade it via your phone. Boom, we got 17th function dual tensioning. So that's where it's really limitless what it can do, and no other machine, even the Grand Slam machines that are very expensive, can't do that. So it's been it's been really cool. And then even some of the players out at Wimbledon using it and giving feedback on that have used the platinum versions before, and now the CybeX, and it's been pretty cool to get the feedback on it. And as I said, it was kind of the long-term vision and what I wanted to achieve from the start, having the portability plus now the functionality. And it's I'm glad to kind of be able to leave something behind for players and for tennis. And it's hopefully it becomes the standard of string machines in the future. And it's already pretty much there anyway the last few years. So it's been a great adventure. And to mix it with my professional playing career for 21 years, it's been tough to do both in parallel. But good times.
So, how do you notice, like, when you deal a lot with pros, like that, there's a more thinking around gear, and like the strings are very important. Like people are very picky with strings, or when to drop the racket at the stringer, if they, or when they string themselves, they want to be in control, right? Like, and they want to know what they're doing, and they're looking for a little bit more from their setup. Is that something you've noticed, like when you talk to players, when you're on tour, when you're playing yourself? I don't know how much of a gear nerd you were, but it's do you have you seen that trend?
Yeah, you have different levels within different players. You know, some players actually I've spoke to that are very high level, and they have no idea about strings or tensions or anything. I'm like, how are you that good at tennis? How? But most players are very specific with their equipment and very or almost OCD, as you see, with all aspects of their equipment. And that's kind of the normal. And you know, when you go to these pro events, it's the routine. You get there, you know, 2-3 days ahead if you can. And how it works is these guys that don't have the machine, the whole conversation is, oh, okay, you handed your racket in at 50. What do you feel like it's at? Or 48? Maybe I should put my racket in at, you know. And everyone's desperately trying to figure out where their racket's getting strung at the correct tension for that stringer and for that week. And they're just handing in rackets up and down the tensions to try to figure out what's right for them, which makes sense. But you know, obviously, if thousands of players that are using Pro String on tour, they know exactly. They're just in their hotel room, 50-50, and it's going to be right. So having that peace of mind, especially kind of, you know, you're in a third set, it's 5-4 in the third set, and you break a string, you bring out a new racket, and what's in this, you know, you might double fold or lose 2 points, boom, the match is gone. So being in control of your equipment is very important, and there's obviously very fine margins in tennis between winning and losing, and that's been the feedback from players and also experience of playing myself. But that's kind of the routine of how it works when you're at the tournaments and they're just chatting away. And I'm like, well, guys, I wish there was an alternative. I wish there was a solution. It is important, and it's important for especially juniors coming up, understanding their equipment and being in control of that, rather than letting external factors dictate certain results.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now that you're like a business guy instead of a tennis player, like what have you been able to use from your life as a tennis pro, which is a pretty cutthroat environment, to business, to running a business?
Well, it's actually very similar. There's a lot of parallels between playing tennis and running a business. So it's not a team sport. It's you hire who you need as a coach, a physio, mind, nutrition, whatever, all the elements of tennis, and you need to tick all of the boxes, right, to have a successful career. And obviously in a team sport, all of that's provided for you, but tennis is the opposite. You hire those people, and in business it's the same. I can't succeed. Like I was at the start with a little pencil in my hotel room doing designs of some crazy machine that everyone thinks won't work. I need a proper engineer. I need a good one. I need people that can execute all the different elements of the business, and there's a lot of them. And you need to tick all the boxes to bring a world first products to life. So there's a lot of similarities that I've learned from playing tennis that have kind of transferred over. I guess the difference for me is I was doing it all at the same time, which was quite interesting. It's like, I mean, my friends on tour would laugh at me because I'm on the phone as I'm talking to a reseller as I'm walking onto the court to play a match, and then I'll get onto the court, and 60% of the guys that the last few years that I was playing use Pro Stringer. Oh, hey, Rubin. And, a few times, like at the coin toss, the guys, I thought, oh, I need some replacement clamps. And like, oh, let's just wait an hour and a half, just beat me up at tennis, and then we can have a chat. Yeah, so it was interesting doing both at once. I think I'm not sure that was the situation for anyone else playing, but yeah, it was quite an interesting one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you think you will miss the competing though? I mean, you compete in business, but tennis has a specific like intensity in the competition sense.
Yeah, there is certain elements of tennis that you can't replicate. That feeling of, you play a 3 hour match, or in Davis Cup I played matches 5 hours 15, and you come through and you win for your country, and that feeling that you get, you can't replicate that in real life. I don't wake up in the morning and a reseller's bought 100 machines, and I don't feel you can't replicate that. So there's certain things that you can only get in professional sport. And yeah, you miss that, and those type of feelings, and emotions can be kind of addictive, where you want that feeling again. But for me, I played 21 years times 35, 40 weeks a year. It's a lot. So I really maximized my time. It got to the point the last 6 or 7 years where I could feel there was a bit more purpose in business to give back to the sport rather than just playing myself. And I realized that pretty quickly, actually, probably early 20s. I looked at the system of tennis, and very difficult for anyone to actually make money out of the sport. And, I got to 280 in singles, 130 in doubles, but as realistically as I could kind of see from a third person point of view, like, I can do certain entertainment playing tennis, but no one's I'm not a Federer or a Djokovic, and I felt like with Pro Stringer, this was a way that I could leave something behind that would last and that would be purposeful for the game rather than so much myself playing. So that was kind of my mindset, even from the early 20s, just having like a broader vision of the situation. But a lot of players ask me, like, obviously advice with tennis or even business, and I kind of say, like, have a narrow vision when it comes to your tennis and your training, narrow in, but outside that, try to have a broader vision, try to see opportunities like I saw in Korea from the start. Because in tennis, you do meet a lot of good people, high level businessmen, people that made a difference in the world, and tennis is a small part of life, and it's very important, but with the system of tennis, 98% are still going to work afterwards. They're still going to need to do something or have some purpose after the game. So understanding that and kind of just chipping away at something else that can stimulate your mind in different ways while you're playing tennis, I think is healthy and just good for your long-term situation. And I think I executed that quite well, and I encourage other players to do that too.
Yeah, you have for sure, and I think it's kind of a inspiration for many. I guess that there's like you can be connected to tennis, and you can find your own way in tennis, even if you've been a pro, but you didn't, become top 10. But to be top 200 in either doubles or singles, you're an amazing athlete. Like it's the system of tennis that makes it quite difficult to just make a very nice living from that. Is that a frustration you had during your career? This like a lot of people I talk about that, like the tennis system and like the prize money distribution and all that.
Yeah, it's difficult. So it hasn't really changed much since I started 21 years ago. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of frustration from players with that, and that could be another podcast. But yeah, it's I think it's been good with Pro Stringer because the amount of money that they make from tennis, and they're paying, $300-400 sometimes a week for stringing expenses versus their prize money versus their team's expenses. The higher you go up, you hire more people to be more professional, more people in your team, higher expenses, bit more higher prize money, but it kind of adds up. So being able to provide a machine to help a lot of players survive on tour and also perform better, thus making more money, has been purposeful for me. It's been great for me, but also encouraging players to get into something, still focus on tennis, but start thinking otherwise, because it's there's only a small percentage that makes money out of the game, with the unfortunate, let's say, situation that that it's in. So yeah, I've had 21 years of these conversations, obviously with players, but it's kind of, it's a monopoly. There's no alternative. What can I do? I can only provide some form of assistance with my business that has been mutually beneficial, and that's the most I can do from my perspective, which has been good. We've sponsored hundreds of thousands for pro players and juniors, whether it's, we just give discounts or sponsorships, patch deals, all this stuff, just to give back to the game as we increased popularity and sales. We just did a foundation in Zimbabwe just last week. Did another one with Vanya King Serving Hope in Uganda. We sponsored with machines, and that was actually an interesting one because we sent some machines and strings there so they can string rackets, and they didn't have power supply like we do it in every room, so they had to go to a specific one place, one room to string, and they all want to string on the machine. They couldn't do it, and so then I signed this thing, like a portable battery pack that was powerful enough to string the rackets. And this is actually the second version, but the first one was a bit bigger and heavier. Sent them out, they're all happy. But then it spurred the idea of, okay, like, we don't need PSU, we don't need power supply units, we need more portability, more options. And then some pro players have been using this, and sent me a video a few days ago, stringing on a train on the way to a tournament. It just put the lid down, stringing on the train, and like made it even more portable and more options. So all of these type of things, and being really involved in the game is important, because I am the customer basically, and a lot of my friends, pro players, were the ones giving feedback, and then people ask me like, "Oh, I want to get into business. Like, oh, what should I do? Any ideas?" And I always say, like, you've got to be a specialist in the field. You have to do it. Even my twin brother the other day, he's wanted to invest with commercial drones, and went into the showroom, these commercial drones, and I said, "Okay, what does this part do? What does this part on the wing do?" Don't know. Don't do it. You really, it's competitive out there, and you really have to be a specialist. So that's helped, and yeah, it's been really good to develop and leave back something special for the players. And I think a realization for me was actually after I finished hip surgery and I went back to play. I played some smaller events to start up again, and I went in the first week. I went into the players' lounge, and this futures event, and there was 6 tables, and 5 of them guys were on the table stringing on pro string, and so okay, that was when I kind of realized, and yeah, so it's been great.
Yeah, it's a good viral social idea that what's the weirdest location you've strung a racket, like on a train is pretty weird. Maybe you have someone doing it on a beach, or maybe, you can encourage people to string in odd locations with the
Yeah.
power bank, right? Because it makes it ultimately super portable. And I think for tennis players, like it's a way to also kill off some time, right? Because I see a lot of tennis players on their phone, which is not the most healthy way to after a match or after training, especially with all the like betting people going crazy and sending mean comments if you lose a match or if you win a match. I
Yeah.
think it's good not to be on the phone. So maybe you string a racket, it gives you some like. For me, I find it pretty boring, but it's some kind of meditation, especially if you don't listen to anything. But it takes your mind off a little bit and lets you do something.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, so it's also beneficial for players, as in with Pro Stringer, you just you have the machine right up against the frame. It's all in here, so it gives you the ability to sit down to string. With other bigger machines, you need to stand up because you need to use it in a wider area. So the players, you try playing like 3-5 hour match and then standing up to string, it's not good. So they can finish playing, cool down, recover, and just sit down and just string in here. I'll tell you, they normally do have their phone, and they're still looking at it. It's right there. But so it doesn't take them off the phone. But it is kind of a form of meditation. Yeah, I'd call it that, especially for me. I string every day. Once I'm done with all my business stuff, I'll still string every day just to practice, just to keep. Every time I string a racket, okay, we can change that, we can tweak that, and it's good to keep directly involved with the product. And just from practicing, I find a lot of implementations. So I try to do that, but it's great for the players to be able to sit down and string and potentially get off the phone. But see.
Yeah, for sure. Around your career, what was some? Do you have like a highlight? I mean, what was it? Maybe related to Davis Cup New Zealand, and a low light. Like, do you have something from your tennis life, but also then your business life as a pro stringer founder?
Mm. I think from tennis, there was probably 2 highlights. I guess playing the Auckland ATP event, which is my hometown home club. Played center court against Hyun Chung when he was 19 in the world, just after his Aussie Open semi-final, and winning that one on center court.
Wow.
Was pretty special. Like capacity crowd, standing ovation, all of that fun stuff. That was awesome to do, in front of family and friends. I could see them up there. And then the next one was, I loved playing Davis Cup. Did that from 21 years, from 17 years old I started Davis Cup. And we played Uruguay, and I played Pablo Cuevas, who was also top 20. And I won that one in a really high level match from both ends, in the deciding match to win it for New Zealand, which, like, obviously to beat an amazing player like that, but final match plus doing it for New Zealand is, yeah, again, it goes back to those feelings that you can't replicate. Just even speaking about those two moments, I start feeling like something. Yeah, so some special moments in tennis, but obviously like a lot of lows too. Like we talk about standing ovations. Normally it was against me 90% of the time, so it's a lot of highs and lows in tennis, and it's week to week. You can win a tournament Sunday, you fly to the other side of the world, you're a bit too up or down mentally, you're complacent, or you're a bit too down on your past results, boom, you lose first round. It's really, yeah, you need to be very mentally stable, and yeah, mixing in with developing world first products. It was pretty full on 20 years. So I'm enjoying Bali life for a little bit now to recover.
Yeah, it does sound pretty full on. Did you have a moment like in the start of the pro stringer where you felt like, okay, this is not gonna work, or you had a setback, and like in contrast to that, did you have a moment where you're like, okay, this is actually changing the sport a little bit, or like this is actually doing something serious for the game?
Yeah, it changed a lot over the years, a lot. But at the start, I would wake up in the morning, I'd eagerly turn my phone on, and I like, is there any, like, turn the airplane mode off, and is there any sales? Like, does anyone believe in this crazy idea of mine? And some days no, and you get one sale, and you're like, oh great, this is fantastic. And then you fast forward to up to the last 7 years, where I wake up and I look at my phone, I'm like, oh, I don't touch it until I've done my morning routine. I've had my coffee. I'm fully locked in to be able to, touch the airplane mode, and it's just exploding. So it's completely changed over the years. But initially there was, of course, with everything, there's initial investment. Is this going to work? At the start, you'd get all this forums or feedback like, oh, this is a toy, it's not possible that something 1.3 kgs could work as well as a 60 kg machine, scan, blah 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 blah. But I knew its capabilities and I knew its potential, and I believed in that very strongly, and willing to do the work and willing to lead a strong team to be able to bring it into real life and improve it over the years to where it is now. And yeah, it is an initial risk, and it's probably a couple of 100K down the first few years. And one machine has 82 specially made parts. These molds, you need molds for these. You have generic things, motors, gearboxes, but you have these molds, and they're very expensive, and it's a big initial investment to create something that is new, especially as advanced as this. So it is a bit of a risk versus reward type of thing, and yeah, I'm just happy to pull it off, and to leave back something special for players. I think that's great, and sure, with my tennis career, I probably sacrificed a bit of my career high potential, but I think long-term vision, and just the broader vision is more important. That I did focus more on the pro stringer side of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can always have regrets about everything, but I mean, life is where life is, right? So you just have to forget about that and keep going. You said earlier that you didn't accept any like shareholders. Was that like a decision from your gut that you didn't want to give out some control? You wanted full control, or how was that thinking process?
Yeah, so we had quite a few offers, especially early on when they could see the potential in it. Um, yeah, so I just decided that I didn't want the development hindered. I felt that between myself and my other pro friends that were using it and their feedback plus my feedback, I felt that was the way forward. And I didn't want anyone else involved that could hinder that. It wasn't purely what I do is not purely focused on numbers. It's a balance with purpose, highly regarded. So I wanted to make sure we executed a long-term vision of making the CybeX machine 1.3 kgs, and I didn't want anyone else kind of being involved or trying to hinder that progress. And yeah, so I decided to just do it a slower but longer journey where we're doing smaller batches and improving it slower, but long term, I felt that was the best vision for the company and for the product. So I didn't. Yeah, I obviously could have taken the easy way out and cashed out, and um, but I didn't feel much from that. So that was the mindset behind the decisions regarding shareholding and investment.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think also when a business comes from your heart a little bit, like I mean, tennis has been such a strong part of your life for your entire life, right? And you feel like more that you want to make sure that things are done in a right way, not always maybe the most way to make money only, but the way that
Mm,
you feel like the product should be seen and should work and the effect it should have on the tour and the world, right? I guess that's one of the important things, right?
exactly, exactly. And I feel like that's been that favor, let's say, has been returned to me. Like, the resellers we have around the world, and everyone knows my position in tennis and that how the vision is for Pro Stringer and why it's been made and what it's doing for players. And it's been a lot easier to get other people involved in a global effort to promote it and make it to where it is the last few years. So yeah, it's been great, and I was lucky to also play pro tennis and at the same time. So yeah, happy to do both.
Yeah, I thought probably is the best way to market the product is to actually be around other players. Like if you want to do guerrilla marketing, like to go on the pro tour, and that's amazing that you could do both things at the same time because that requires obviously amazing athletic skill, but you also need to multitask all the time, and have a bit of a 3D chess kind of thing to everything. Do you have any thoughts around like there's so many types of strings now, like there's so many new brands products, maybe not so many new materials, but a lot of types of strings. Is that something you hear a lot about, or what's your thoughts around that? Do you always play with the same string during your career, or did you experiment?
I played a lot with Luxelon at the start, and again, it was like the situation in Uganda where there was a need there, and so I tried to solve a pain point. So um, again, I think I lost my contract with Luxelon at the time, and I didn't really feel comfortable with any of the other strings I tested. So I thought, what I'm going to make my own string. Let's go. So we did make, I tested every different material and shape and gauge, everything. And for myself, I came up with a square-shaped blue string. Me and actually Marcus Turon, a pro player, we were in California at his place, and he tested the string, and he's like, "Wow, this is amazing." He started using it. I said, "Oh, do you think I should start selling?" I don't really like, again, string, like just to do one of the million strings. It doesn't sit that well with me. There's no purpose behind that, I feel like. So I didn't really feel like launching strings. It was just more of a, for my situation. Marcus liked to use a string. But anyway, we're sitting around and so, okay, maybe I should put it on the website, because it is a very good string. And then, so what should we call it? And we were watching Zoolander, the movie, and one of the catchphrases was blue steel, and it's a blue square shaped string. So okay, I'll call it blue steel. Put it on the website. Let's go. And then we came up with like a round silver string, which is the same playability as that Luxilon Alu Power that I was using. So I would start using that, and yeah, so that was the journey for the two strings that Pro Stringer did. But we're not really focused on the string. Like, there's pro players using it, but my main focus is these world first products, and not so much string. But there is a lot of good string on the market these days. It's not like, when polyester just came out and you had Kirschbaum, and then Alu Power was like, Luxilon was a huge step up. And then there's a lot of good brands. There's a lot of good polyester strings on the market these days. It's kind of saturated, but yeah, it's not hard to find a good string. But again, it's personal. Every player has different string in their different tensions, different string in the mains versus the crosses. So yeah, it's just finding out what you like, having enough time in between tournaments to test multiple strings. I tell players, make sure you string both of the rackets at the same time, at the same tension, but different strings, to then practice the next day and have a fair comparison. But yeah, that's kind of my view on strings. But that's probably another podcast with just racket customization, different racket strings, grips, leather grips, Gasquet's big buck. You just go on and on and on. But it's it's very personal. And for someone to sit there and say this is the best way for you, it's not true. You provide some good options for them to find out what's best for them, like what we've done with CybeX. There's all the options, and away you go. So it's the same with bracket customization and everything. That's the journey you have to go on, and you have to find that out yourself, but with some good advice on the side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's 100% personal. You see some things that you might deem as being crazy or just being like, but it's what works for the player. Like whether it's a mental thing or 100% like a physical thing on court, doesn't really matter. It's all like what makes the performance work for the player, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of it can be some kind of placebo effect, but sometimes it's not. So it's you just have to think of what brings results, and what makes you more, emotionally, mentally stable on the court.
Exactly. Yeah. Glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Do you how much do you think is mental, and like how did you tackle mentally traveling on tour? Like New Zealand, you're quite far away, you have to travel all the time. How important was your kind of mental like health, and did you have any kind of rituals to make sure you could maintain it for this kind of strange life of being a tennis player?
Well, I would argue that you don't have too much mental health being a tennis player. I think that went out the window after a few years. Um, yeah, obviously being from Australia or New Zealand, it's very far away, and when you leave home, you're gone for a while. You can't just bounce back for a week or two. Um, so generally, you have to have a base overseas, but you're playing 35, 40 weeks a year sometimes. So you're just bouncing tournament to tournament, trying to stay mentally sane. Uh, do you have the resources to have a coach or a physio or a bigger team to kind of help your progression or help your stability? Yeah, everyone's in a different position, and I still think tennis players are the best athletes in the world, and they're in a pretty tough environment, tricky system. It's tough mentally, but it's always been that way. Uh, I guess these days with social media, you hear a bit more. People are a bit more open about how they feel about that. Players are a bit more open, but yeah, it's always been that way. And you're an entertainer at the end of the day. You're out there entertaining. You have to be a good example for the kids coming up, a good role model, and yeah, considering that is also important before venting too much publicly. But I think it makes you pretty mentally strong. Either it breaks you or you become pretty mentally strong. And to be honest, like even to run a world first international business is probably it was probably way harder playing tennis. Like, so my point is that if you can do it, if you can get through all the challenges and find solutions, and um, you become a pretty strong person mentally. And I think after tennis, you're going to fall on your feet well. So I think it's a good thing, and the type of experiences that you have, you don't get to travel to 35 countries a year potentially, and travel to all these places. And if you're sitting in an office or just studying, so you do have a experience that most people just won't have in their life. And um, if you do like the travel, I think some players, they like to travel like myself. I love to travel to experience new places, and but a lot of players don't like that. They don't um, don't want those external experiences, which are good. Because tennis is a small part of life, even though it feels different when you're in the environment. So yeah, I always encourage guys to just try to have one experience outside of tennis per week. Just see the city you're in if you have time, or you know, um, or even like I did with business, start stimulating your mind in a different way. You know, instead of playing video games inside your room, or always, how could you be more productive, or uh, how can you develop your mind in a different way that might actually help balance out the pressures of tennis. So I encourage those things with the people that I've helped.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, I think the balance is important. Like you can't, if you put all your eggs in the tennis basket, and when the basket kind of breaks or falls over, or you feel like you've lost a big match, or you're not taking your chances, like the world kind of ends for you mentally, right? Like, and then
Yeah,
you have to rebuild. So it's good to have a something outside tennis, whether you play an instrument or you do another sport or you have another hobby or you run a business. Or I think it's always good to have something where when tennis doesn't feel so great, you can move to that thing and feel probably
yeah,
better, or just shift your focus a bit.
exactly. It's yeah, and that's how it was for me at the start of my career. Tennis is everything. Like, it's even linked to my personality, everything. And when you lose matches, like, who am I? Like, that's everything that I am. And then later in my career with with pro string and everything that was happening there, I had to remind myself that I was a tennis player. It was complete, like, I'm sure no one's been in that situation before, but yeah, completely opposite. But it's finding that balance, I think, is more healthy. If you want to have a good career, just finding something that can stimulate your mind in different ways, but not too much.
Yeah, true. I think that's a good point. So for
Yeah.
you now and Pro Stringer, you launched CybeX. Like, what's next on your agenda? Like, how much do you have? Do you have like a marketing launch plan? Like, what's happening in the Pro Stringer world from now on?
So, as I mentioned, we worked 7 years on CybeX as we're selling platinum. So it's great that we finally executed it, and guys are out there at Wimbledon using it, and perfect feedback, and it's all gone to plan. Um, and yeah, so it's kind of a pause moment a little bit for me. There was a huge effort to get this machine out, and so now a little bit of reflection, a little bit of time um, in between. Like with this machine, with the first batch, I actually go to manufacturing, and I will be actively involved with everything from the assembly, the calibration, everything. And yeah, so I did that for 1,000 machines for this first batch, and it was full on. 12-hour days just at manufacturing for weeks, but you got to make sure it's right, especially the first batch before it becomes everyone's in automation. um yeah, so it's yeah, just a more of a little bit of time back. We did launch this the portable battery pack just to help with portability, and then working on a stand, um, just for tournament stringers and pro shops, just to have a professional looking stand that they can use to for tournaments and for pro shops. But it's not really necessary for the pro players, which is more my focus, the pro players and the juniors. But just for that market of tournament stringers and pro shops, to because they're kind of used to the big machines, the big stand-up machines, and that visual look for them. Fine. So yeah, just finishing up on the design of that, launch that next month. And yeah, in regards to the machines itself, in between Platinum and CybeX, we did the new clamps, which I named them claws, because they have a new technology, a new shape of the way that it grips the strings. Basically, it keeps every single string perfectly straight. Where in a tennis racket, you have some narrow strings, you have some wider strings, and if the string isn't straight because the clamps can't clamp them straight, the tension isn't accurate. So um, yeah, that's a new world first technology. Launched that after Platinum 3, and then the Modulax, the mounting system. Normally, when you buy a machine, you either buy 2-point mounting, or you buy 4-point mounting or 6-point mounting. And we designed one mounting system that you can do 2, 4, 6 with the same mounting system. So with the same mounting system, you can choose if you want 2 or 4 or 6, and you have it all there, and it's 2 kgs. So it's basically providing the same mounting system as the Grand Slam machines, but it's super portable. And yeah, it's been interesting. And then even just surprising type of things, with, like, we've got 2 resellers in Japan. They live in smaller areas, just like smaller apartments. They can't have these big machines. They love Pro Stringer. Just put in a little drawer, wait, where you go. So yeah, it's been good for many different reasons. and the development always continues. But now I now I need a little bit of a break. 7 years of CybeX has been intense. So yeah, we're just letting the players enjoy it for a bit. But there's it's not going to be a new mission for a while.
I think so. That sounds like a good idea that you take a little bit of a break. But best of luck with the CybeX and your business. And it was very interesting talking to you, hearing about your challenges as a player, but also as an entrepreneur. And I'm sure we'll see the CybeX a lot around the tours and the Grand Slams. See players stringing. That's nice. That's taking it to the next level. And thanks a lot for your time, man.
Thank you, Jonas. Appreciate it. We'll chat on the next podcast.
For sure. Anytime you want.
Awesome. Thanks, bud.